Doghouse Podcast is back. Week 2, week 1 is in the books. Got a great return guest, Mad Dawg. How we doing today?
We're doing fine, man. It was a good weekend for college football.
Yes, sir, it was. We'll get into that. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, share the Doghouse Podcast. Really appreciate the feedback from last week. And we're in week 2, sitting here on Labor Day. Mad Dawg, Georgia cruises to a 45-7 win over Marshall. I know it's first game. I know they were an inferior opponent, but what stood out for you for the Marshall game?
Well, I mean, Gunner looked as we thought he should have looked like. I thought he did very well. Although I will say this, that offense was as vanilla as kindergarten ice cream. I mean, it was just it was plain Jane, whatever it was. And I think they did it on purpose. I think, it was more or less Kirby treated it like a scrimmage, and it was a very successful scrimmage. Gunner did the right reads. He pulled the ball when he needed to. He got 2 rushing touchdowns, which he used his legs. He knew how to throw the ball away. And Zachariah Branch was exactly what we thought he was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Fast, lightning. It was insane that one catch he made and then ran it to the end zone. He is lightning quick, and that's what we're going to need, especially when we get into SEC play. So, yeah, the offense may have been vanilla, but it was very successful, and I can only imagine what it'd be like when they dial up some real good plays when we start playing SEC opponents.
Exactly. I think it's what all Georgia fans wanted to see. I'm going to kind of touch on, I'm a big Brandon Adams fan, and he was just trying to will this thing in. He goes, I don't care if they won 60-0. I want to see them start fast and them getting up 14-0 in the first quarter, because last year I think there was a stat. They were behind 7 times by halftime, and I think there was 6 games they didn't even score in the first quarter. So he liked to see that. Gunner looked great, 14-24, 190. 2 touchdowns, 10 carries for 73 yards, showing his mobility, and 2 rushing touchdowns. I like seeing, they mention it that you might see him, but you got to give it to Dwight Phillips Jr. Peanut, 5 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown. Kid's got a spark. I like seeing that. I will say the rest of the guys, it's kind of hard sledding. I thought that they would have maybe did a little better, even though they did have 239 yards. I hope we'll see more of that. And the wide receivers, that Zachariah Branch, as you touched on, Colby Young, 2 receptions for 30 yards. But I wish they would have taken some deep shots, but I think they didn't want to show a lot, like you said, and it was very vanilla. But all in all, and on defense, holding any team, if it was flag football, to a little over 200 yards. 209 yards was impressive. Marshall got a junk garbage touchdown late against the backups, but well in control. Another positive is I think it was 2 penalties for 15 yards, clean game, also no turnovers. So it was good on that end. On the negatives, though, a little banged up, though. Is it Juan Gaston? Looks like some type of ankle, which I thought it was a knee, the way he got rolled up on, but Kirby didn't really say. Also, a late scratch on Dalen Everett, and some other guys maybe got banged up. Any updates from what you read on the forums?
No, I mean, nothing major. I mean, he could keep him out of Austin Peay. I really think he could play the backups and beat Austin Peay. I mean, I think they might be easier to beat than Marshall was this past weekend. So he needs to rest him, because when they go to Knoxville, he's going to need all hands on deck, because Tennessee, even though they had that new quarterback, they didn't look as bad as I thought they may have on offense. I thought they were throwing the ball quite well, but I mean, it's Josh Heupel's offense, so we don't know. I mean, Kirby's usually got that figured out, especially with the defense. If he could shut that down and make them go a few 3-and-outs, I think we'll be able to move on them. But like I said, Kirby at one time, and we jumped up 21-0, and then it kind of started slacking off. People they started getting in their face and everything. But what they didn't know was Kirby was putting a lot of different offensive linemen in there. He was trying out some new people. He wasn't exactly he didn't want to get anybody hurt. I mean, Kirby doesn't care about anything about covering the spread, especially in games like this. He cares about, like he said that during the press conference, it's a fine line, because you don't have the depth that you used to because of NIL. It's a fine line to keep those kids healthy. And, he put in a lot of backups. a lot of third and fourth string right there at the end. That's why they were able to score that garbage touchdown. He's all about keeping his first string as healthy as he possibly can. And in these games, when these teams figure they're going to lose anyway and they got nothing to lose, you can get somebody hurt real bad.
I agree. Yeah, definitely like to see the backups in. We'll say Ryan Puglisi looked good, 5 of 8, 59 yards and a touchdown.
Oh, yeah, that touchdown he threw that tight end was awesome.
I will say this. I had a close buddy, season ticket holder, been following Georgia for years. I called him after the game. He was there. He said, I don't want to be the outspoken one, but Ryan Puglisi has a better arm than Gunner did. And I'm telling you, he was throwing lasers on that one down the sideline. He's on lower level. But he's like, that was a Stafford arm.
Yes, and the thing is, he got just a little less experience, and I think that's why Gunner won the starting job. Yeah. He's got a little less experience, but there's no reason to believe that if for some reason, and I don't hope I'm jinxing anything, something does happen to Gunner. And I'm glad to see him slide the way he was doing, because he's going to need to start doing that a lot, especially if he starts taking off and gets positive yards and makes something out of nothing. Yeah. He needs to make sure he slides. But if he gets hurt for any reason, there's no reason to believe with an arm like Puglisi's got that we wouldn't be okay even in the backup quarterback position.
Yeah. I mean, Georgia took care of business. You saw what you wanted to. One other one I did want to touch on, I didn't know he got in at the end because I was trying to watch all the plays that I could. But anyway, Josh McCray got in. But any reason why Roderick Robinson didn't get any carries or get in? Anything on that? Because I thought he had a good summer from what I heard.
I know, I did too, and I saw him like warming up a lot on social media and practicing. I have no idea unless for some unknown reason. I mean, Kirby holds his cards close to the vest when it comes to games like this. Like, he may be waiting just to play him when we get in the SEC play, but I don't know why we didn't see him out there either. But the running game looked fairly good. They just kept running the ball, and it's a simple thing to run the ball, but it's also difficult to be successful running the ball too sometimes. So I don't know why he wasn't in there. I was very happy to see us gaining yardage when we ran the ball. It didn't look like, but again, we were playing Marshall. Mm-hmm. You can't, you got to take that with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they were, like I said, they were playing those backup offensive linemen, So the fact that he needs to get them as much playing time as possible, because at any given time they may have to go in. I think it's very smart for this past Saturday and this coming up Saturday. You're going to see the same thing. I think you're going to see a vanilla offense. Mm-hmm. You're going to see a lot of backups, and you're just going to see him get as many kids playing time as he possibly can, because he may need them down the road.
That's right. Yeah, we'll put that one to bed, though. Great, good win. Start out 45-7. Before we jump on to this big-time matchup this weekend against Austin Peay, great. We got a great sponsor of the show, VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. 0 carbs, 0 sugar. Great for a tailgate. If you can check it out. My personal favorite is the watermelon.
You can get the watermelon is good. Watermelon is good.
Yeah, appreciate that, Mad Dawg. He's been able to have a taste of it. Coconut flavor, if you can get it. It's they're usually selling out on that. Also, they're a big sponsor of the Boston Brewers during hockey season. So check them out. Doghouse 20% off. Doghouse 20. Check them out on Instagram, and they are on YouTube, building up that YouTube channel. Appreciate them being a sponsor of the show. Before we talk about Austin Peay, pop quiz. You might know this, Mad Dawg. Can you name Austin Peay's conference that they're in? I did not know this till I Googled it.
Oh my God. I mean, sometimes no, actually I can't. It's not Sunbelt, is it?
That's a good one. This, according to Google, of course, is the Ohio Valley Conference.
I've never even heard of that conference.
I mean, didn't we play them a couple years ago?
Austin Peay, yeah, but I didn't know what conference they were in.
Yeah, as of 2023. Anyway, Austin Valley Conference. There's some knowledge for the day for you. Is the Fighting Governors of Austin Peay. I even tried looking for a spread on this thing, even though we're here sitting on Monday. But yeah, man, what are we looking at? I mean, this thing might get way out of hand.
Possibly. I mean, it depends. I mean, like I said, I thought Marshall would be a tougher opponent than Austin Peay. So we're going to look at, I think we're going to see Puglisi have a lot more playing time in this one, maybe. I think if Gunner jumps out ahead, with Austin Peay, they may yank him after the first half.
Yeah.
We may see. I expect to run the ball a lot. Various passes here and there. Nothing showboat, nothing flashy. I think he's saving all that for Knoxville.
Yep.
So I mean, we're going to watch it, of course, because it's Georgia. But I don't expect anything other than a vanilla offense again. And like I said, nothing too crazy, nothing out of hand. But some of those other teams like Ole Miss and some of those other companies, they'll run the score up to like 60 something. Everybody's like, look how many points they scored. I don't know why they do that. I have no idea. They showboat and they do everything. Kirby's never like that. He doesn't care about the point spread. He cares about saving on injuries, and he cares about getting as many kids playing time as he possibly can because he's going to need them. So, you don't expect Kirby, but Kirby could win this thing again, like maybe 48-3. It could be anything like that. It's just going to depend. He's not going to worry about whatever spread it is. I wouldn't worry about him covering it.
Yeah, completely agree. If you can get a line on this thing, good luck. Austin Peay did beat Middle Tennessee State 34-14, so they are coming in with the win. First win over an FBS team since 1987 is the stat line here, so that's interesting. Don't know much about them. I'm going to go 56-7. It's hard to shut a team completely out. We got close with Marshall, something like that. You're going to see a lot of young guys running the ball. Hopefully we see some of these, maybe C.J. Wiley or Talon Taylor get a touchdown. Elias Williams, who got one. See some of these young Jaden Riddell. I thought you'd see him more. Maybe see some of the young backs. Bo Walker get a bunch of carries. Josh McCray, get him going.
One of my favorite touchdowns during the game, and I love this touchdown when they're in the red zone and even inside the 5, was that touchdown to London Humphreys in the back of the end zone. Yeah. I thought that was – I love it when they hit either receiver or tight end over the middle in the back of the end zone. That was a beautiful touchdown, and I love those touchdowns. I like those touchdowns better than I do the run plays in the red zone like that. I just like a good crossing route in the back of the end zone.
Yep, completely agree. That was, Gunner was well command. He looked good. The other thing about this Austin Peay game, you got to check out your local listings because I think this is one of those ESPN Plus or SEC Plus, and they black out a bunch of them. So
yeah, probably
for all the traditional Comcast and all those maybe older generation might need to check out the streaming because they usually have one of these a year where they kind of put it on one of the smaller teams.
Well, I can understand if they do that with Austin Peay because it's Austin Peay. And no disrespect to them at all. I mean, they could come in with a big chip on their shoulder. And Marshall came in with a chip on their shoulder talking about this is the best time to get Georgia. They were going to beat them. And we saw how that worked out for them. So we don't know if, like I said, Marshall did pretty good. I mean, they tried. They had a few first downs. I will say this about the defense. The defense
Thunder and Herd.
Yeah, the Thunder and Herd got the Stampede kind of got stopped there. The defense looked hungry. I mean, they looked like they were stopping the run, stopping everything, making sacks. They looked entirely hungry, and that's exactly what you want. The Georgia defense looked like the Georgia defense that you're used to, but again, you're playing Marshall, so we'll see how that translates to SEC play. But I was very satisfied with the way the defense looked.
Yep, completely agree. And then also, I think that Marshall player talked a little trash earlier in the week. I'm sure you can't find him anywhere right now.
No. I don't know why they do things like that. I mean, I don't know if Kirby played that for the team or was it even worth it? It's just funny.
It is. All right, we'll talk about some of these big games because there were some upsets. We'll say it was very interesting and it was a great slate of games and some good outcomes. We'll say that. We'll start out first here. Start out with the big one at 12 that everybody's looking at. Texas against Ohio State. Arch Manning against the Buckeyes. Ohio State wins 14-7 in a slobber knocker. This was all defense. What stood out to you besides Arch Manning couldn't complete a pass?
Part of me kind of, I expected more out of him. Of course, everybody did.
A lot of hype.
And it just stood out to me that maybe he was nervous. Maybe, I don't think he isn't as advertised because I'd like to think that he's a lot better than the way he looked. Maybe it was too big of a game, for his first start on the road, at Ohio State. And maybe that defense is just really that good. We may see him play the next game and, he looks outstanding because the defense is, not as good. But But Texas's defense held them to 14 points too. I mean, Julian saying, he completed a few more. Yeah, he completed a few passes, but it was all a ground game, and and they had to earn every inch they got because those defenses. I mean, it got a little boring, but then you got kind of into it because you were like, nobody was throwing the ball. Either nobody was getting open or they were just putting too much pressure on both quarterbacks. It was just running the ball for 5 or 6 yards of play, and it was just. I don't know. It really wear and tear on both lines of scrimmage, and both lines of scrimmage seemed to be holding up. It was pretty interesting after a while, and then you see Arch when he had an opportunity to tie the ball game, again, fell short.
I think it had a lot of pressure on the kid. And I'm gonna kind of go back to even Aaron Murray mentioned it in the offseason. I always remember there was a reason why a 7th round Quentin Ewers beat him out. Would we be having all this hype about him if he was a 5-star coming in, if his name was Mike Smith and it's not Arch Manning? Seems like a good kid. Also, another one is, it looks like to me he was kind of sidearming the ball. Did you see that? He was off.
Yeah. I don't understand what that was all about because he threw it. He had one guy open, even on that short pass underneath, and instead of like floating the ball over, he just kind of sidearmed it, and he was throwing it low. Those receivers couldn't catch it, either behind him or too low for him, and he just needed to put the ball up more where they could get it. And it just looked like he wasn't on the same page with his receivers, which was a little disconcerting because you think he would be that way. They had the whole offseason to get into some kind of rhythm, and it just seems like they couldn't get into it out there.
Also, I think it might have been a little conservative, and this goes back to Sarkisian, is I think he maybe had the training wheels on him, didn't cut him loose. They just weren't taking a lot of shots downfield, or they couldn't get open. And I think they both kind of like they got conservative, and I don't want to lose this big game. And Ohio State struggled too as well. But you also need to look at it. These might have been 2 of the top 10 or even top 5 defenses in the land. And This is early on, and defenses usually win early on. So I'm not putting a fork in them yet, but I think everybody needs to lower their expectations on the kid. But they got some favorable matchups. I'm gonna look at them: San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston. So they should roll those, and you might see him put up 40, 50 points and be back in the Heisman Trophy race. The one that's going to be interesting is at Florida on Saturday, October 14th. That'll be a challenge. So this might get put to bed for a little bit. I don't think they drop. What do you think they drop in the rankings being number 1? Out of the top 5, even though it was a 7-point loss to number 3? What you think?
I don't know. I mean, they I don't know if they fall out of the top 10. I'm not sure. It just depends. I mean, I know they're not going to be number 1.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know if the pressure of coming in being the number 1 team. I hate coming in the first game being the number 1 team. I think that's just. Yeah, it's just a huge target, and and I think it's a little unfair. I think they should play a couple of games before they start ranking these kids because you don't know what you're going to get. No matter how much hype, no matter what everybody's talking about, everybody was trashing Gunnar Stockton and praising Arch Manning, and look what happened week 1. Even though we were playing Marshall, Gunnar Stockton did his job, and no interceptions, everything was fine. Arch Manning couldn't complete anything, kept handing the ball off, getting sacked, and then threw an interception, and just anything that could go wrong that day for him did go wrong. And it's just a little disappointing, especially with all the hype that he had over the offseason.
That's right. Before we move on to the next game, Mad Dawg, any funny comments that we heard? There's a lot out there. I know you mentioned one earlier.
What, about Arch Manning?
Yeah, about Arch Manning, yeah.
Oh, gosh. I mean, how many memes did you see of, like, Peyton Manning pointing over to the side saying he was adopted? And, I mean, you didn't see that one?
What was the one in Athens you mentioned earlier?
Oh, yeah. Somebody posted a picture of the Arches in Athens and said, this is the only Arch that didn't throw an interception on Saturday. So, I mean, you got to think this kid, he's a kid, and but people are going to have fun with it. And you got to know that if you don't live up to any kind of hype, people are going to start ragging you, especially on social media. They are ruthless on social media.
Everybody's keeping receipts. Another one that I heard of, I think there was more Arch commercials than there were completions. I heard that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's absolutely right. Somebody said the only major completion he made was to the wrong team.
That's right. So hey, tough loss for Longhorns, but I think they'll still be back in it. Still early, losing to a number 3 team, only 7 points. Still got the
Yeah.
whole conference ahead of them, so I think they'll be okay. Now you drop another one or another two, might be sitting at home as the way things are set up, but we'll see. Next one we're going to talk about is the shocker in Tallahassee. No one saw this coming. They were a 14-point spread where you got it, but Florida State puts the whooping smackdown on Alabama and Caleb DeBoer, 31-17. And to me, this was never a game. This was Florida State jumped on them from pillar to post, as they say.
Yeah, we had, that game was on the same time the Georgia game was on. So we had two TVs on. We had a major TV that we were watching, and we had another TV in the background that was on the Alabama game. Well, we looked up, Alabama was 7-0. We were like, it's going to happen. It's Alabama. We figured, everybody counted Florida State out. They only won 2 games last year.
That's right.
So everybody thought, they're going to be easy rollover. But they got to understand, Florida State, they probably took that personally. They probably got really, really ill and upset. And nobody talked about much in the offseason that Gus Malzahn was the offensive coordinator that got hired by Florida State. And if anything, there's one thing he knows, it's how to beat Alabama. I don't care who the coach is. He knows how to beat Alabama. He had a lot of experience doing it. So nobody talked about that. And I always thought that was like, nobody's mentioning anything about Gus. They're thinking that they're just going to get rolled over. That's a desperate move. They're getting Gus. But the Gus bus completely rolled over the Tide. And I mean, the more I kept watching it, the more I kind of like stepped away from the Georgia game and started watching the Alabama game a little bit going, are you serious? Like they just could not stop anything. And it didn't look like the Alabama of old at all. I mean, they had one play. It looked like they just had a lack of effort in tackling the person. It's just, I don't know what was going on there. I don't know if what DeBoer is or what kind of, standard he's setting there or, what's going on, but it's not the Alabama everybody's used to. And Alabama fans are calling for his head on social media right now.
Take a $70 million buyout. Everybody's looking into it. I think that would really be too quick. But I guess that Tommy Constanello, ever pronounce his name, he talked some trash in the offseason. He backed it up. He had a great game. 9 of 14, 152 yards, but touchdown and 78 yards on the ground. And they ran for 230 yards. And that's one thing Alabama, they couldn't figure it out. 29 rushes for 87. Couldn't run the ball. That's not like Alabama. And then, like you said, I think they're more of a finesse team. I'm going to go with Uncle Lou, who called him out on his Your Season's Over. He's always funny. He goes, I think they're West Coast soft. I think Caleb DeBoer has brought in this culture that they're not physical when getting punched in the mouth, and when the team punches them in the mouth, they can't respond. And then I was never scared just because of what I saw 2 years ago. I was never scared of the Ty Simpson kid. Nothing against him, but he just looked kind of lost in that South Florida game when he backed up Jalen Milroe a couple years ago.
Yes.
And when they named him this year, I'm like, I don't know about him. He's not mobile.
No.
So I like the matchup with Georgia this year, and another one is we got to get him this year. You're never going to get him. Come on. Man.
Yeah. I mean, Alabama fans are already taking to social media going, they absolutely do not want to come to Athens. Like they, because everybody expected it, to be, they wouldn't roll over the Seminoles, and the Seminoles, like I said, come in with a chip on his shoulder. They were talking a bunch of smack. And like you said, they backed it up. Gus had that offense rolling, and he knew exactly where to hit. I don't care. Everybody was talking about, he brought in these new offensive coordinator, and things are going to look great for Alabama. So he got the offensive coordinator. Things don't look that great. They don't have Michael Penix under center. And I believe even if they had Michael Penix Saturday, that wouldn't have helped them. Not the way Florida State was playing them. Florida State came in way too hungry, and now they've got momentum to go into the season. I really think Florida State is not going to go quietly into the night. They're gonna keep this up because they beat Alabama. They've shocked everybody by beating Alabama. I think they're going to keep going.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I think Florida State made a statement, and that ACC after this weekend, and we can touch on it, got a little interesting. So they might be a dark horse. I don't think anybody thought Florida State coming off 2-10. Looking at Alabama coming up, UL Monroe, they'll probably roll them. They got Wisconsin, and then they got a bye week and go to Athens. So it'll see if they're hopefully 2-1. But and also reading right here, Ryan Williams is in protocol. I don't know if he got a little banged up. It said may miss home opener. Ryan Williams, I'm not sure if he had a little injury, but that's kind of surprising.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he wasn't. He was. I didn't see a lot of completions to him, but I mean, like I said, even if he was on the field, I don't know if that would have helped.
Oh yeah.
I really don't. I think. I mean, Uncle Lou may be right. They may be a little soft this year, and I think they may be that kindergarten vanilla ice cream that I was talking about earlier. That may be what Alabama is this year.
Hey, I'd like some of that ice cream and coming down to Athens, smack him in the mouth. Another one is I'm not sure if he takes his call-in show, but if anybody can do YouTube or whatever, but Paul Feinbaum is gold today. If you check, got to check on his
Oh,
callers calling in Alabama. Paul, what we gonna do, Paul? He's not Nick Saban. What are you
oh, yeah. Well, they just now figuring this out. I've said this from the beginning. I told anybody, I said I would take any job in any conference, following anybody but Nick Saban. I don't know who thought that was, who thought, okay, we're going to follow Nick Saban. It's going to be an easy transition. It's going to be like handing the baton off and he's just going to keep going. No, it's never going to be like the kind of culture that Nick Saban had. And I hate to admit this, but I think it's going to be the same way, hopefully years down the road when if Kirby Smart leaves, whoever's going to come in there, it's not going to be the same culture.
I
It's
agree.
just not. And you've got to be able to, especially when you come in with somebody who's a strict and a stern and holds somebody to a certain standard the way they do. And then somebody else comes in there and, they're all kind of laid back. They come from the Pac-12 and they're like, hey, this is going to be easy. No, SEC is not easy. SEC is not for everybody. And I think Kalen DeBoer is finding it out the hard way.
He is. The other thing I didn't realize too, he's 5-5 in his last 10 games. You notice that? And I think they've lost 3 straight.
Yeah.
Oklahoma got him, and he lost a bowl game.
Oh, yeah. You lost the bowl game to Michigan.
That's right. So anyway, would not want to be Kalen DeBoer in Tuscaloosa today, but hey, we love seeing Alabama squirming a little bit. But it's our time this year to get 2-6 instead of 1-6 or 2-9 when you do that.
Yes.
Another one that was a really good one, I'd say another slobber knocker, and I think this was 2 defenses that played well against each other, and they surprised me, was Battle of the Tigers, Battle of the Death Valley. But LSU defeated Clemson. Clemson was up in this game 10-3 at halftime and just could not get it going and struggled in the second half. And Cade Klubnik struggled, almost looked like against Georgia last year, 19 of 38, 1 pick. And they couldn't run the ball. They had 20 carries for 31 yards, and I think they had a converted wide receiver. So I think Clemson has a rushing issue, and you got to give it to LSU and Brian Kelly coming in and actually winning their opener because he was 0-3, much needed win. But what was your thoughts on LSU beating Clemson?
Well, I mean, hats off to Brian Kelly because he finally won an opener. I mean, they haven't won one of those in a while. I was beginning to think it wasn't going to happen. Like I said, I didn't care who won this game. I just wanted it to be a good game, and that's what it turned out to be.
Right.
I have some friends who are LSU fans. I know they're happy that they finally won an opener because they were worried about that. And Clemson had a lot of hype, and everybody was picking Clemson. And,
right.
Much like everybody was high on Arch Manning, high on Alabama, they were high on Clemson, and we saw how everything worked. It's just about – you can just about bet that in the beginning of the season, the very first game, whoever's everybody's hyped on, just pick the other team. Because you never know until that first game is played. It almost sets the standard for what the rest of the season could be, unless there's major injuries to your team. And I think LSU set a standard here. They showed that even to being a visiting team in a hostile environment, they still found a way to stop that offense and slug it out and win that ball game. And hats off. And they're always arguing about which one's the real Death Valley. Well, I think Clemson wanted to put that to rest, that they hold the title for the real Death Valley.
Yeah, completely agree. You got to give it to them. And David might have some issues because everybody was really high on them. 80% of the team was back. I think the defense is legit, but they got some issues. And I think they were very vanilla too. But you might have them come and start rolling too because Georgia rolled them last year, and then they ended up kind of rolling through the weak ACC. Even though Florida State, Miami looked good, we can touch on that here in a little bit. ACC might be a little bit better than we thought.
Yes. Miami did look a lot better than I thought, especially Carson Beck. And I wasn't one of those kind of people who wanted to wish him terrible. I didn't want to wish him bad luck in his first game, but he looked a lot better than I thought. He looked like he did in Georgia in the first season he played. And I don't know what was going on. Maybe there was no chemistry at Georgia. There was something going on. Maybe he lost the locker room. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But He certainly did connect with those wide receivers, and those wide receivers caught the ball, especially that one ball in the end zone. They caught it one-handed right before the half. That was an excellent play.
Yeah.
And I think that, maybe something is going on down there in Miami. But to me, when certain teams like Florida State, Miami, and, other teams, LSU, when they're just good, it makes college football better. So maybe it'll make it more interesting this year. Alabama may be down, Texas may be down. We don't know. They might be able to find a way to bounce back. But those other teams being good, I think that really sets a different standard in college football and makes it a lot more interesting to watch.
It is. I will say I was pleasantly surprised with Carson Beck. Like you mentioned, I didn't want any ill will for him. I was just very interested to see how he would do. But he looked really relieved after the game and his post game talk, and he had a lot on him the last 8 months. And then I think Notre Dame maybe came in a little sluggish. Their quarterback looked okay, tried to rally at the end, but I think their defense was a little down, or Miami had a much improved offensive line, but they were kind of pushing them around. And they couldn't run the ball either.
So, yeah, but I mean, it was a good game. It was tied right up there to the end, and they were able to get that field goal. That was, to me, one of the better matchups over the weekend.
Yeah, it was. But all in all, great week one slate of games with some upsets. I think week 2 is a little weaker. I'm not sure what game day is, but it might be.
Michigan and Oklahoma play in week 2. That may be pretty interesting to watch.
That's right. But I think there might not be any more ranked teams. I know SEC, somebody mentioned it is Ole Miss plays Kentucky, which I heard Kentucky kind of struggled. They won, though. Ole Miss might blow them out.
Well, Ole Miss needs to after that. They beat them last year. I know Ole Miss wants to go in there and get a little revenge on that game.
That's right. I think it's kind of a down week, but we'll see. Any other thoughts on week 1?
No. Just like I said, it was interesting. We got another game going on, I think, right now or tonight. We got USC playing. What is it? TCU.
That's right. Fighting Bill Belichick's.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Maybe his girlfriend will be on the sideline coaching with him. She'll have a headset on too.
What's the over under? They show her 5 times on the screen tonight. I think.
Oh yeah, but this is going to be worse than Taylor Swift with the freaking Chiefs. This is going to be insane.
All right. Hey, Mad Dawg, appreciate you coming on again. How do we follow you on the internet and social media?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at MadDawg19. You can follow me on YouTube and Spotify now with Another Doggone Podcast.
That's right, Mad Dawg. Yeah, also check out Mad Dawg on Instagram and Facebook. He's got great illustrations and graphics. Also helps me out with thumbnails. He's been great on that. But yeah,
I'm always helping you out.
2,500 followers, dude. I love this Labor Day right here, man. With the Jeep, it's good right there.
Yeah,
man.
I made that kind of late last night. I put that one together. I thought it turned out kind of well.
Yeah, check him out on Another Doggone Podcast, and he's on YouTube now. Hopefully, we'll have some good content coming up.
Yeah, I got another one that we're doing, I think, this Wednesday. So check that. We'll be able to get that one ready and get it going.
Yeah, man. Thanks again for hopping on the podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, share the Doghouse Podcast.
Absolutely. Go Dogs.